Welcome to Sathaye.com, a special program called CMD Test. As you know, since independence, PSUs have played a pivotal role. When it comes to power sector financing, REC has been at the forefront. Since its inception in 1969, REC today has the status of Navratna and it comes under the Ministry of Power. If you see, REC is majorly into financing of power projects, especially when it comes to transmission, distribution, etc. To talk about the company's operations and activities, today we have a very special guest. I would like to welcome Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Gupta, Chairman and Managing Director of REC, and he also holds the additional charge of Director Technical. Before I talk to Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, I would just briefly like to mention that he has an experience of more than 37 years. He has been working in NHPC and Power Grid before joining in the year 2010. He has also held many senior positions in the company. He was also the CEO of REC Transmission, and also he has worked extensively in prestigious projects internationally when it comes to transmission projects based in Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh and Myanmar. So Mr. Gupta, I welcome you to this program, and first of all accept my congratulations. You just recently took over as Managing Director and CMD of REC.
Thank you very much.
I'll start with the first question. Being one of the oldest financing company in the power sector, and it has been operational for almost last 50 years. Could you just take us through the journey?
Yeah, certainly. REC is the oldest company under Ministry of Power. We have very recently celebrated 51st Foundation Day on last 25th of July. We take really a pride in our last 51-year journey. It has been really an illustrious and a glorious past. And of course, future we see as very, very promising. As far as REC is concerned, we really had come a long way in the last 50 years. If I track this journey, it was born in 1969 and with a very dire need to improve the power distribution system to rural areas. As extreme need was felt at that time to energize those agriculture towns and to improve irrigation facilities and cultivation, as the country was passing through a very tough phase in terms of shortage of fruits. REC continued this journey and played its instrumental role in form of various government programs and schemes, and continued to lay infrastructure in those rural areas, primarily earlier for improving the distribution and energizing those irrigation pumps. Later on, it so happened because when people are there and power infrastructure is there, it started even some electrifying those households also in the rural areas. This all continued, and in the later on, company involved in financing distribution schemes of erstwhile state-like boards. In fact, in 1969, it was a public limited company, public financial company, who financed these distribution works, but it was declared as a NBFC, registered with Reserve Bank of India. in the year 1998. Later on 2003, when this Electricity Supply Act, its mandate became very large, and wherein it was to started financing in a big manner all generation without any limit, all generation, transmission and distribution projects. That is where it started financing private sector projects also. Of course, in 2004-05, this Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana, this scheme, REC was appointed as a nodal agency. This is a scheme which now known as a DDU-JJY. And later in 2008, it went public. Government of India divested some equity, and this IPO was a blockbuster. It was the market took it by storm. Almost it was oversubscribed by 23-25 times. Subsequently, after 2 years, we had 2010, it became an infrastructure finance company. Then in 2015, again a follow-on offer came, which equally, despite of being a difficult market conditions, it got oversubscribed and did very, very well. So this has been a journey. Today, REC, whether it's 22 offices around the country, all pan-India operations, is having a loan assets of close to 3.22 lakh crore. It's one of the first 10 largest profit-making companies, and net worth of close to 35,000 crore presently. It has a national level training institute, REC Institute of Power Management and Training in Hyderabad, which imparts capacity building and all this training in the area of distribution, and also covers transmission and distribution. And now it has is more into this renewable areas also, and most of our clients and customers, these power utilities, state power utilities, are trained there. And at the same time, REC has to fully owned subsidiary company to leverage its expertise in the area of transmission and distribution. One is REC Transmission Project Company, another is REC Power Distribution Companies. Net worth of these two companies is almost in excess of 300 crore today, and they are almost present as far as their operations is concerned in the entire country. With this base, what is more important that all these things we do with a very, we may be a very old company, but all this entire business operations, let me give you a size that in the last 3 years successively, our sanctions remain in excess of 100,000 crores, and our disbursement this year was close to 76,000 crore. This is the area of our operations. We have a very competitive lending rates and very loyal list of customers. And we meet close to 22% of India's power infrastructure investment requirements. At the same time, we maintain another universe in which RET acts as a trusted and loyal partner of Ministry of Power to oversee monitoring, implementation of these mega schemes, mostly these mega power distribution schemes like DDU-JJY, which is Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana, which is for improvement of overall distribution infrastructure in the rural areas, with the main component of taking access of power to all the villages, which we have since completed in the year 2018. The program like Saubhagya, which aims at to electrify each and every household in the country, urban or rural, all billing households. This scheme also came to close in March 2019, and because it was for billing household, later on government further allowed that still if there are some more households are there which stand unelectrified as informed to us by the states. I am happy to tell you that in 31st March 2020, we almost connected 2.75 crore households in the country. International Energy Agency has declared it as one of the major success program, the largest program anywhere in the world. So we do take pride in being part of such program which directly make us partner in the inclusive development of the country. This entire universe of our financing power infra investment, as well as to managing these government mega programs to improve largely the distribution infrastructure in the country, more so in the rural areas. We manage it with a very lean, slim and trim manpower strength of close to 450. Each employee in REC, as per our current year profitability criteria, is close to 10 to 12 crore per person. This indicates a productivity. So this is where we are today as a result of our 51-year journey today.
Sir, my next question is, what's the percentage of loan disbursements when it comes to public and private sector? And secondly, I would also like to know in your future endeavors, what's the percentage of allocation you are doing it for, say, when it comes to renewable energy or coal or thermal? So what is going to be your future strategy?
You see that REC financing is to only power sector, and as far as our business portfolio today, if you see our loan asset book is close to now for this year, almost as on 31st March, it is close to 322,000 crore. 3,22,000 crore precise. Now we see this portfolio amongst various activities. We are close to some 48, 47% around generation, and then today close to 5% renewables, and remaining goes to transmission and distribution projects. Going forward, basically, as there is a renewed focus towards renewables because of various environmental challenges and our international obligations, also as per Paris Protocol. And also REC as an environmental sensitive organization, we do share this concern that these carbon emissions should be reduced drastically, and we also play our significant role in ensuring it. You see that in generation we have a very large share even in our portfolio, large thermal power plant. And this produces various emissions in terms of SOx and NOx, we call like this. And our Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has laid down various clear-cut norms which have been which had to be followed by all these thermal power plant, all the power generators, to bring them up to an acceptable level, to ensure that these carbon emission reductions do take place. We have a trajectory which we want to achieve, that is an ambitious program. So for that, there are two things which are happening on a global or even at a local level. There is already presently going a apparent energy transition. Energy transition means focus is getting shifted from these fossil fuel based power to renewable.
Okay.
You can see that in the last 3 to 4 years, there have been a very heightened and intensive activity as far as renewable generation is concerned. You can see that the rate at which this solar or wind has come up is phenomenal. India is one of the countries which has emerged as a major player in renewables. In REC also, we were initially a bit slow observing the sector, how it all moving. But now we have also a renewed focus and thrust on renewable sector. We are pretty convinced that renewable is the way to go forward as far as our generation part is concerned, because climate is a very, very big concern. And we are seeing its after effects also. We are realizing it. Various natural events, various floods, various kinds of tragedies which are happening like that. They are all having their origin to various physical activities which we must control. So this will be our, going forward, this will be our focus areas. And we have already achieved substantial success in this. Like even in the current year, if you will see that our major sanctions, even this year for projects, have been in the renewable areas. This is one. And moreover, these large thermal power plants, which is going to be the mainstay for India, because still a lot of large share of the power generated in the country is through thermal power plant. For a very, very long time, they all cannot be phased out, because all those generators, they have to pay their dues, clear their debt, and all that. So as per normal institutional mechanism to reduce those emissions, there are various guidelines and what we call as FGD equipments have to be installed at all these power plants to reduce the level of those SOx and NOx to an acceptable level, which will definitely have their positive environmental footprints in terms of reduced emissions. So this is our going forward. This is our lines. Moreover, we are always for major hydro projects or small hydro projects or even wind and all kind of renewables, even waste to energy and all that. We are too keen normally to finance all those projects which have potential to reduce carbon footprints and affect the influence the environment positively.
That's my next question on that. When it comes to future plans, how do you see the business environment going forward, considering the kind of environmental challenges you face? Even post-COVID, it's throwing a new challenge for you. So, how are you carving out your future plans?
You see, one part I already covered in your previous question.
Yeah.
That renewable is going to be our thrust area.
Okay.
At the same time, globally as well as in our country, we are seeing that a large thermal power plant, we are not seeing many projects these days in the last 2-3 years, even in the private sector. Of course, as I said, that we will continue to depend on even thermal power for some time. That is going to be a kind of mainstay for our power or energy security. We have already we have other plans now to, as far as this part is concerned, as far as our business is concerned. Thrust on renewable is from one side. At the same time, there is a lot more emphasis, again considering and given the environmental constraints, there is a lot of emphasis on green and green mobility.
Yes.
Electrical mobility, which we call, and we have already carved out a separate e-business area wherein we would be financing end-to-end this electrical mobility infrastructure. You see, this is an area which in coming 5 to 8 years will see a lot of action, because we have not even scratched the surface, particularly as far as electrical vehicles are concerned. And now we are already into financing electrical buses. We have done few projects. We will be involving in, we will be going in a big way as far as this mobility infrastructure is concerned. I mean the charging infrastructure across the nation, across the cities. Then there are battery storage systems. For this thing, you see, we have to go for renewable energy. The only thing technically, if you see the feature of renewable energy, that it is not a permanent, it's not a 24/7 power. The weather gods, whether it is wind or rains or the solar, solar is only in the morning to evening, what I do in the night. Or is the wind is mostly in the night, this thing. So these sources, renewable sources, have to be supplemented with additional sources so as to make them a reliable source of power, for which there are various schemes, the pumped storage schemes, the battery storage systems. These battery storage systems, the technologies are evolving, they are emerging, and still it may take a little time to reach a level of maturity wherein they are self-sustainable, whereas they are viable, and I'm quite optimistic that in the not too distant future, all these things would be feasible, and the environment of clean and green mobility, not only for this transportation, mobility and transportation, but also for our normal this power. This would be possible. We already are very, very near to, we have almost achieved a kind of grid parity as far as this renewable power and power from other sources are concerned. And going forward, because of technology, lot of technologies, these ICT technologies, automation technologies, particularly this integration of these renewables into the grid, the situation is going to transform and it will be a sustainable source of.
Sir, REC has been a consistent dividend payout to the government regularly. If you could just take us through the key highlights of your financials.
Yes, REC has been performing exceedingly well year after year. If you can see the performance of our company in the last 5-6 years, it has last 2 years, if I say, current year which has ended on 31st March, this thing a year before. We have paid close to, we have paid almost 110% as dividend, and the same dividend we paid a year before. So it has been very generous in paying dividends and enriching our investors, our shareholders, and obviously the government. Our business performance, we were saying that has been quite good, and we were, the range of our operations, our normal annual income had been close to 30,000 crore. Profit before tax almost to the extent of 7,000 crore. Our loan asset book today stands at close to 3.22 lakh crore. Net worth at 35,000 crore. And despite challenges currently and the strategic shift in our approach and also various diversification measures which the company has taken, I am quite hopeful that notwithstanding all these challenges, we will continue to forward our march on a growth oriented.
Sir, I come to my next question basically. This COVID-19 has brought new challenges, and obviously you will have to address it. For example, you have a very depressed demand and deteriorating health of the power sector, particularly the distribution area. So how difficult it is financing these kind of projects at these junctions?
See, COVID-19 is a global pandemic. No organization and no country can prepare it for suddenly facing this kind of things. There have been various approaches of various countries, and though particularly in our country we felt it heat somewhere in March, where we faced the lockdown in the last week, which was you can imagine as a financial year, it was the last week. Any competitive organization has to learn to prepare itself for uncertainty. Otherwise, who will plan for it? By the way, as far as REC is concerned, I'm happy to share with you that despite all that sudden lockdown and that too in the last week, wherein we had to disburse the last, these are loans and everybody has a requirement of fund and all that. Because the organization is technologically quite advanced. It's techno savvy, and these all ICT technologies, latest things. So we have a professional manpower. Everybody is trained. Everybody is using all these technical, all those means of working to improve productivities and all that. And so it didn't take much for REC to make a smooth transition from office to work and work from home.
Okay.
Rather, I would say work from anywhere. And all our disbursements, all our banking operations, all our office operations were seamlessly shifted. We had no issue. Our normal major business operations of loan disbursements and even other business process anyway do occur through enterprise resource planning, ERP system, which is in REC since 2008.
Okay.
Moreover, I'm again happy to share that REC happens to be one of, I think, one of the very few enterprise in the country, CPSU, who have this e-office operations since 2018, and wherein once it is technology or IT, geography doesn't matter. You can be at your office, you can be at your home. Like as today we see that video conferencing, how does it matter? So same way it didn't affect. Everybody in REC is equipped, has been enabled to work from home, and that is how our all business operations have been possible without any significant disturbance, or interruptions. And obviously, this pandemic has created some challenge because we have to ensure safety for our persons, for our manpower, which is its most important asset.
In fact, I think we can quite safely say that your past endeavors has taken care of all the future uncertainties. I think it has been very well taken care.
Yeah, of course, because last 2 decades, if you say, they have been more technology dominant, particularly in the arena of information technology and all that, which basically improves productivity and makes work from home possible.
Sir, my next question is that since you already had a very good ICT infrastructure to carry out your operations very smoothly, but my focus is little on the future uncertainties, that how you are going to cope up with it to ensure that your future business operations are carried out very smoothly.
You see that you are right that still, as far as COVID uncertainty is still on. We see that there are a lot of informations available in the general media and public domain, as far as readiness of vaccine or various other things. But it is true that still so many cases are coming. Deaths too are occurring. So it's a matter of concern. And we are seeing that going forward is a time with uncertainty. But to be on a little positive note, I would say that we have to learn to live with this reality. And there are various protocols available as to how we can protect ourselves. In REC we have a very elaborate system of maintaining how these protocols to ensure sanitation, to making a roster of our workforce so that the social distancing and isolation norms are adhered. And it is our primal duty that our manpower should be safe. We have to provide an environment, safe environment for them to work in. So it is almost kind of a hybrid kind of thing where people are working from home. And it is a well-designed procedure. And some people who are here. This is as far as our normal work is concerned. As far as you say that business operations, obviously, they have been impacted to some extent because we are into long-term project financing. There those distribution infrastructure, those transmission projects, those renewable projects, large generation projects which we have financed and which are under construction, various stages of construction. Those pace of those works have slowed down considerably because of many reasons. Still there are various intermittent lockdowns, the availability of labor, even where those labor is required, the skilled manpower is required. Everybody has to prepare themselves a kind of COVID-proof in the sense they have to provide new dispensation in terms of safe environment to work. And this has created a situation where the capital works, project works at sites have slowed down significantly, affecting our disbursements, which is a major, major milestones, major parameters for us to absorb. But I would add that whenever there are, such kind of situation poses risks, there are some opportunities also. For us, this opportunity has come in terms of that, as you see that this is a power industry, distribution industries. Because of this COVID situation, RBI has provided moratorium to the consumers. Discom's recovery from the consumer has been affected. And it is a power value chain. Discom purchases power from generating agencies through transmission agencies. It has to pay to them. When its recovery from the consumer is affected, how it will pay to the generator? So that entire chain is affected. It is under these conditions. You can live without anything. You can't live without power.
Yes.
Power is a basic prime mover for the industry. You can make any growth plans, you can make anything. Ultimately, our industry is a main growth engine which has to run, and that runs on power. In COVID times, because of lockdowns and all that, Ultimately, it was the industry and the commercial activities which came to a grinding halt, which affected recoveries by the discoms. Though they had purchased power, they have to pay for the power. So under this situation, there was an environment of lack of liquidity in the sector, in the distribution sector. On one side, the demand was depressed because no industry is running. Commercial activities, these shopping malls, these gymnasium, these hospitality industries, these are all so many sectors. And I tell you, we are not unique. The entire world has suffered. This is a kind of pandemic and its outbreak, which has everybody has suffered. And as in India, we say that we have still say that going by the various mortality and all that, it has been managed
very well.
Very, very well. Entire world looks at us. But only thing is that, of course, when government saw this situation and came out with a kind of a innovative interventions in these things to ease liquidity into this sector. And we as a partner agency of ministry, this thing, we were asked, we have to arrange this kinds of funds to ease this liquidity position. So this disbursements to the distribution utilities ongoing are going for us. So as far as business part is concerned, to some extent, we could carry out disbursement in this way, and which eased the liquidity problem for our distribution companies. And at the same time, some of the disbursement issues which we faced were overcome.
Great, thank you. Sir, my next question is, a long back, REC was interested to do the rural electrification part, which has been a great success. If you could just briefly share the status of the project and what were the challenges you faced?
You see that, as I told you even in the beginning, that one of our major area of operations is government programs. Power is a concurrent subject to Constitution. While distribution is a state subject, Government of India through Ministry of Power have various interventions to supplement state government effort to improve distribution, which still today in the power value chain stands out as a weakest link. As financial conditions of distribution companies is still not very, very healthy. So through these mega programs, REC has been a part of such programs since time immemorial. And one such program, which presently still is going on, is Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana.
Yes.
In earlier schemes which were going were subsumed into this. The major element of this program was access of power to all the villages. So you see that there was a time there were a number of villages which were left, and in the year 2018, REC achieved that milestone of ensuring the access of power all the villages. I mean the total When I say village electrification, that means access of power to those small villages. So that village electrification program was completed in 2018 in April. The next thing was next scheme which came while this village electrification works was going on. This Saubhagya, because government had a very ambitious program, RECs and nodal agents. You know, ultimately this exact implementation of these programs is through discoms primarily, particularly as far as Saubhagya scheme is concerned. While in DDU-JJY there are discoms play again a prominent role, there are various CPSU agencies also. This Saubhagya program was also completed where all billing households were electrified by March 2019.
I think this Saubhagya scheme, I think, gave a flip to your earlier program, and it was a last mile connectivity which was achieved.
Both are two different things, because once you say universal
Access to power.
access to power, that only means that first of all access of power to the village should be there. I mean, there should be a substation which has infrastructure, some distribution lines, the LT line, the HT line, through which service lines could be laid, and
It reaches the household.
it reached near the household, and household could be electrified. But only thing is that Saubhagya program accelerated. It enabled where government made it possible that this service connections are given to all the billing household. This was the program. It was a free connection for poor consumers, while this APL and all those consumers, there was a provision of paying a small installment, but very concessional, at a concessional rate. So now this universal electrification and universal access was achieved, and you can remember, I think, in 2018, this International Energy Agency came up with a news that which appreciated this India's universal access program, one of the pioneer and the largest program taken anywhere in the world. Even though Saubhagya scheme was closed on 31st March, but still all billing household. Later on, there were some households who expressed their willingness to electrify, and to facilitate them, the scheme permitted that even those new applicants who came up with the willingness to electrify the houses, they were permitted, and you see that almost close to 2.75 crore households have been electrified till 31st March 2020.
Sir, for the benefit of our viewers, if you could also tell us the number of villages which were electrified all over the country.
See that India has close to 600,000 villages.
Okay.
Like that. When this scheme came DDU-JJY, there were, to be precise, this 18,452 villages, which were the census villages.
Okay.
And it was tentatively this kind of requirement was on the basis of this information given by each state. And our Honorable Prime Minister kept a target of 1,000 days to electrify all these villages. And this is a matter of great satisfaction that India could achieve that milestone, and we being a nodal agency of Ministry of Power, take pride in rising up to the occasion and meeting this challenge.
Yeah, I certainly would congratulate your entire team. It has been a mammoth task, and you have achieved in flying colors. So, REC being a financing company in the power sector, what's the role of your technical team? How do you analyze projects?
You see, REC has a big universe. It is a pioneering major non-banking finance company for financing power projects. At the same time, we monitor implementation of, on a pan-India level, various mega schemes of the government. And these schemes are schemes for assuring, for enabling access of power to the villages, and also taking that power to the last mile. Because basic philosophy of universal electrification is this power infrastructure should be laid right up to the villages to connect all communities. At the same time, from that there should be connections, service connections available to the consumers, the inhabitants who are living in this particular places. So basically all these programs, being technical in nature, require a lot of skill in appraising projects. For our various schemes in transmission and distribution, in generation, renewables, today smart grids, new technologies. All these projects involve technology, and there are, while you do the project appraisal, you need to weigh various pros and cons, how a network is to be designed, what are the things, what are the material which are to be used, various equipments, specifications, and appraisal of this project, technical appraisal of the projects required really a skill. So basically we have to see that all these projects are techno-commercially appraised as per the best engineering practices. And not only that, particularly all these activities in power, these are all regulated activities. There are various regulatory norms. There are things. At the same time, REC, once it is involved in financing, it is a non-banking finance company. It comes under direct RBI. So you can imagine that we are having multiple regulations. We deal with this power, all these various elements of generation, transmission, distributions. Though it is a value chain of power, but all are different, have their own functions. So this laying a good framework and a professional framework and institutional mechanism to carry out due diligence and meticulous appraisal of this project, and at the same time managing this major government programs for universal access of power, which are involving various elements, laying infrastructure. You see there are various metering infrastructures for the consumers, and various other distribution activities like feeder segregation for agriculture and household. These all require good technical diligence and project appraisals, and all this forms the gamut of activities taken up in REC under technical diligence.
That's very great. The kind of due diligence you do, because after your due diligence, then it goes to the finance. So I think you play a very important role.
It is like that, you know, the project appraisal. It cannot be alone technical. It is basically technical, techno-commercial, techno-economical, techno-financial. So it has to be seen in the total perspective. Even we have a department of entity appraisals. But entity appraisal it evaluates on a very, very broader scale as per laid down norms, how an entity, how a developer is, what are his strength, what are his financial various data, what is his experience. So it evaluates them on a multitude of parameters before being assured that he can be considered for a particular project. And then there is a project appraisal. Project appraisal is again seen in terms of its various parameters. So it's a very integrated and a meticulous exercise which is done before a project is considered for finance.
That's good. That comes me to bring you the next question. Like, how do you mobilize your finances for financing various power projects? And what has been your borrowing plan for this financial year, considering the kind of liquidity position we have in the COVID situation? What's your take on this? How do you do this?
I see, as I said, almost caters to 20 to 20% power investment requirement of the country. If you see, basically in last 3 years, we are sanctioning almost close to more than 1,100,000 crores of project sanctions across the entire value chain. At the same time, our disbursement figures, like for this year, was close to 76,000 crores. I think to be precise, 75,800 crores. Obviously, cost of capital in this financing and borrowing efficiency is one of the most important parameter, and it is the strength of this company to borrow our financing requirement, to borrow our this various capital from the market at a very, very competitive rate. We can be competitive in the market as a lender when our borrowing cost is competitive. We have various instruments through which we borrow, which include various domestic institutional bonds. There are 54 EC bonds, sometimes even these tax-free bonds. We borrow from banks, and other than that, REC borrow significantly even from international markets, so external commercial borrowings or syndicated loans. We have almost close to $7 billion of foreign portfolio. And year 2017, we became the first PSU to raise money through green bonds to finance our ambitious renewable programs. So we have a very, very strong and competent division in REC who does this job with very high level of efficiency, and this is our strength. For this year, as far as this year is concerned, our borrowing program, because we are having close to about 100,000 crores of borrowing funds this year. We will be sourcing it from our various instruments depending upon the market conditions. and through various resources, as I have explained, like that. As far as liquidity position is concerned, you see the scenario has undergone sea change ever since this COVID-19 situation has struck. Government, RBI has taken a lot of corrective steps, and presently if there is a substantial liquidity in the market, REC has no issue, no problem at present in meeting our committed liabilities, and has and also mobilizing resources for meeting our various business obligations, means keeping our disbursements on, and at the same time, as you might be aware, that we are a part of government Atmanirbhar program, through which REC is one of the agency, REC is one of the company to infuse liquidity into the distribution sector. So REC and PFC are two agencies, and that program is going on satisfactorily, and there is no issue as such as far as liquidity is concerned.
Sir, my next question is, what has been your major CSR activities, as Government of India has given a mandate to all the public sector undertakings to have a 2% spend? And connecting with this, I have one more question, that during this COVID crisis, how has been REC's contribution?
You see that I will say that REC has been in the forefront of CSR. I would rather say that much before the CSR became a buzzword in corporate India, wherein there is a mandate to have that spent. You can imagine right from 1969, REC has been in the business of energizing those agricultural farms, facilitating creation of infrastructure on the rural side. That has been a role of REC, which each one of REC side takes with immense pride. That is what we say our illustrious and glorious 50-year past. Because while on one side we are a very well-known leading, one of the largest leading NBFC in the country to finance power infra investment requirement. But on the other side, we take immense pride in being a partner in this development process of this country, and particularly the inclusive development.
Exactly.
And today also, more than 70% of the agriculture farms in this country, as statistics I have, are funded, financed by REC. So we have been a very, socially responsive corporate citizen ever since. And of course, now as a part of our normal corporate mandate, our annual corpus as per our profitability comes out to be almost close to 150 crore per annum. And we have created a REC foundation in REC, which undertakes various CSR works as per mandate, as per DP guidelines, as per various other government regulations and advisories. And we operate primarily in the area of health, sanitation, education, skill development, again access to power, renewable energy, and some more, women empowerment. Promoting art and literature and cultures. And other than that, and if you see these CSR works, we do it across the country. Like we are spread and our operations are spread around the country. But similar way we have assisted all the states, many states, right from northeastern region to this thing. Now government has allocated few districts to us in the northeast. This Nagaland, Mizoram, Sikkim, Muzaffarpur in Bihar, some few districts in Odisha, Gajpati, something. Uttarakhand, Udham Singh Nagar.
Yeah. Yes.
These are aspirational districts, and a large share of our CSR has to go to these districts, and REC CSR Foundation has done a phenomenal work promoting particularly the health and various other thematic areas which we have got. As far as this COVID times are concerned, we have almost a, 150 crore, which generally is our corpus. We have donated to PM Cares Fund, rise to the occasion of these tough times which our country faced. At the same time, each and every REC employee contributed 1 day salary. And at the same time, through my all 22, 23 state regional offices, we engaged with district administration and played an instrumental role in very generously contributing to distribution of ration, the PPE kits, the food packets, the sanitizers, the masks, distributions widely amongst all those immigrant and laborers, and including Delhi. And still now, as I share with you, to particularly Sathaye hospital in Delhi, REC is contributing in terms of some close to 550 to 600 doctor, the nursing staff, the paramedical staff, to meet the challenge of this surging COVID spread and patients like that. There a meal, and we have been doing it because they are our corona warriors. REC shared that concern, and the request of authorities, it was our pleasure to have this modest contribution, and it will continue for another 2 months more like that. And wherever we have got these things, even so much so in REC, our employees, they volunteer, and when that a kind of this labor's exodus kind of situation came like that, REC employees volunteered and distributed all those essential food items, essential items to those immigrant laborers. And this including ration, these goods. So that way I'm pretty satisfied and have pleasure in sharing that we did our best and we still continue to do our best in this journey for meeting requirements of the needy and helping them as much as possible. And we are committed to it.
I think that brings me to the end of this interview, and I must really thank Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, who gave us insights into past, present and their future endeavors. It was quite very knowledgeable interview, and you shared your in-depth knowledge, you shared your experiences, and it was really commendable that the entire REC team under your leadership is doing some fantastic job in this very challenging situations. So I thank you for your sparing us your valuable time.
Thank you very much.
And this is Ameya Sathaye at the REC headquarters signing off.